Hey, and welcome to Forecasting with Friends. Today it's just me, and I'm joining you from our weather center, and we got a packed show today, so we want to get straight to what's happening out there right now. Thank you so much for watching us here at this 11 a.m. hour. It is a beauty. Actually, I feel kind of bad. Hopefully you're watching us on the smartphone app that we have, your Fox Local app for your smartphone, because you want to sit outside and enjoy this. We're up to 75 degrees in Houston right now with only about 50% humidity, so it feels pretty terrific out there. Most spots are warming now into the low and middle 70s on our way toward high temperatures topping out most likely in the low 80s in most locations later today. So yeah, it's still pretty warm for us. I mean, it feels great, but we're running about 8 degrees above normal. It is a different story though in other parts of the country. For example, here in Colorado. So take a look at this. This Colorado town was ready for the fight of their lives. Hundreds of people took to the battlefield in Memorial Park over the weekend. Not our Memorial Park, by the way. They hurled snowballs at each other and enjoyed winter weather together. Organizers warned interested snowball throwers to be prepared for plenty of dodging and throwing. I've never seen snow like that before. I can't imagine it. Participants also were treated to some hot chocolate, of course, to warm up after a full day like that in the snow. Big snowman. I've made a snowman in Houston before, but it was a little tiny one. All right, staying on the topic of cold air, all aboard the Polar Express. That's right, the holiday train ride is back this year at the Galveston Railroad Museum. Round trips to the North Pole begin this week. Guests are encouraged to ride in their pajamas, just like they did in the 2004 film. The journey will include characters from the film, the conductor, the singing chefs. There they are. Santa Claus, of course. You'll get to enjoy hot chocolate. That's the second time this show I've mentioned hot chocolate. Cookies and a theatrical experience as the story comes to life. Tickets are on sale now, and the train rides go all the way through December the 23rd there, right before Christmas for that little guy. That looks pretty cool. All right, from a train to a different kind of vehicle, a vehicle astronauts might be using to travel around the moon's surface was unveiled at Space Center Houston. Well, that thing looks like fun. Intuitive Machines Lunar Terrain Vehicle, or LTV, is a full-service lunar rover that could redefine exploration on the moon. It's going to support scientific discovery, long-term human exploration there on the lunar surface.
An autonomous vehicle that we can either drive remotely from the Earth, they can drive from the habitat on the moon, they can drive from the Gateway space station around the moon, or an autonomous vehicle where we send it to waypoints and we autonomously drive it from one place to the next. Barrios.
Well, I guess that's more advanced than that dune buggy that they used to drive around on the moon back in the early 70s of the Apollo missions. NASA awarded contracts to Intuitive Machines and 2 other companies to build these lunar vehicles. All right, good news for those who love the outdoors. Several state parks are expanding. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission announced that it's buying 4 properties, adding more than 7,000 acres to the state park system. The largest benefactor is Enchanted Rock, which everybody says is beautiful, and I've never been there. The park, located north of Fredericksburg, will add over 3,000 acres. Enchanted Rock also added over 600 acres in a separate purchase last month. So that'll do it for your weather news. Now, don't go away, because coming up next, meteorologist John Dawson is going to interview the founder of a company that will keep you prepared in any situation.
All right, welcome back to Forecasting with Friends. I'm meteorologist John Dawson. I've got a great guest today. His name is Christian Schaff. He's with Uncharted Supply Company. And I have been watching these guys for years. Back in 2017 or so, I remember seeing them for the first time and really went from one product to now just a whole family of survival products. So Christian, tell us a little bit about yourself and as well as Uncharted Supply Company.
Yeah, thanks, John. My name's Christian. I'm the founder of Uncharted Supply Company. We are based in Park City, Utah. Great place to test these products and make sure they work in kind of extreme environments. But, my background, I'm originally from Wisconsin. I grew up on a dairy farm there. I've been over to Iraq 39 times in support of OIF, OEF, and, just spent a lot of time in the outdoors in kind of rough environments, and have come face to face with a lot of situations that led me to starting this company. My belief was the right products really didn't exist for people that didn't have a lot of training, that were living in places where there's more and more natural disasters, overpopulation. And my goal was to try to make the world a safer place by building this company and building products that, that just work and can help turn maybe an emergency into just a minor inconvenience in the end. So that's what we're doing. And I'm pumped to be here. Thanks, John.
Yeah, we'll talk about some specific products maybe here in just a minute. But today I really wanted our discussion to be focused on this idea of urban survival versus a very rural survival. If you start looking at any of the, general prepping that's going on out there, most of these people who are, I don't want to call them fanatics, but who are pretty aggressive about it, they're not going to be in a high urban, high populated area. I'm here in Houston, and I always try to keep that in mind, that I'm talking primarily to people who live in a city with 4 million people, probably more than 6 million when you start to get just a little bit outside of the counties, besides just the city of Houston. So I want to sort of just discuss that a little bit. What are your thoughts on, in general, when you think of prepping for an urban, whether it's compared to a rural or not?
Yeah, well, urban and rural, they're very different, right? Like when I think of urban, I think about, I hate to say the word competition, but you're going to be around a lot of people, and if resources are limited, you don't have to look too far back to COVID, where suddenly there wasn't toilet paper, right? So, when I think about these things, you're right. People that are big time preppers have barns or bunkers or basements full of things. But for somebody that lives in an apartment building, how do you prepare for something that could happen when maybe you've got 2,000 square feet or 3,000 square feet or even less? That's something we've thought about a lot. As an example, our survival kit, the 72, it's 11 pounds. The 72 Pro, which is a 2-person, is 16 pounds. It's in a backpack, and it's got everything you need for up to 3 days. So we call it the 72 because 95% of survival situations are resolved in 72 hours. But what's really important is that you can take care of yourself in those first 72. So that's what we focus on, right? Let's play the odds. Let's make something that's not going to take up half of your house, that's affordable to own and can help you navigate. So, there are things to think about. There's space to think about. There's what the specific challenges are in each of those environments. And I think everybody has to look kind of around their neighborhood and plan accordingly. Even talking about water, there's differences in water in an urban area versus rural. You might want to just filter in a rural area where you might want to purify in an urban area because there's more chemicals. So, none of it's overcomplicated. It just takes some thought, and as always, preparing and thinking ahead.
I'm going to make 2 comments on some of the things that you said there. Number one, that idea of competition. I totally agree. And your example of the toilet paper is perfect. But anytime something comes into the Gulf, bottled water, I mean, all that stuff is going to disappear from the shelves. But I was very encouraged with Hurricane Ike. I specifically remember it very well, that also you have community when you're in an urban area as well. I remember working one day for a long shift here at this TV station, and then I went home to my neighborhood. There was no power, anywhere in the neighborhood. But I had a group of neighbors sitting in a driveway with a barbecue grill going because they were getting stuff out of their freezer, right? You were about to lose everything in your freezer. So that is nice that you have more people around you, and you can have some of that community. But that's just, again, sort of one thing that I remember. And then the other thing I just wanted to say for sure I agree with is the 72 hours, having it taken care of in 3 days. I think in an urban area, you're hopeful for responses to come and help you sooner, whether that's FEMA, whether you use the big FEMA organization or even just at a church level or something along those lines. Whereas if you are rural, you're on your own a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, a couple points there. We talked about the shortages of toilet paper, but if something goes off and you're like, hey, I need to run to the grocery store quick, not only is there a limited amount of supplies, but you're injecting yourself into a situation that could be very volatile, right? You never know how
Sure.
people are going to react when there's scarcities, and maybe their kids need that medication bad and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. The best thing you can do is get back to your home where you have everything already and you can let all of that play out somewhere else. So that's a really important thing. You know, you talked about freezers and the hurricane parties and that kind of a thing. I mean, I do have a couple little electric generators in my house. I keep them plugged in. If the power goes out, they're at 100%. And then I've got some solar panels I've never taken out of the package that are brand new and ready to go. And, you know, my perspective is I'm gonna at least be able to keep a freezer going and keep that food. You know, I'm a hunter. I have a bunch of wild game, and that's going to sustain me for a long time. But in addition to that, you know, there's a book called 1 Second After that I really love. And it's a book about when an EMP hits and what happens. And the main character's daughter has diabetes, and, you know, insulin you have to keep cool. So again, it comes down to personal needs. If you've got something like that, we have medication that has to be cool, it might be worth getting a generator and just thinking ahead on those things. But it doesn't take a lot really to just go from being kind of totally screwed because you hadn't thought of anything to being fairly comfortable and maybe just living by candlelight for a few days until things turn around.
Yeah, I've read the book as well, by the way, and I completely agree. It's a good read if anyone wants to look into something like that. But yeah, that's what I talk about with power needs. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
You need refrigeration. You need more power than somebody who lives by themselves and basically just needs to keep their phone charged. But hey, let's talk on water just a little bit, because you said purified versus filtering, and a lot of people aren't familiar with those terms, and sometimes they're defined differently by different people. So just talk a little bit about that, what you mean by that as far as you know, taking care of your water for drinking.
Yeah, it can be a little complicated unless you dive in, but there's really two ways to create drinking water. One is filtering, and one is purifying. Filtering will strain out protozoa, bacteria, dirt, plastics, things like that. When I think of filtering water, I think I'm out in nature, and I want to filter out you know, animal feces and then things like that, but it's safe to drink. When you get into urban environments and there's chemicals in the water and maybe leakages and things like that, if kind of resources are going down, water purification plants aren't working, purifying is a better solution because it catches things like viruses and other things that are more common in large populated areas. And, you know, the way to do that simply is just to boil water, to distill it. They have those little UV light things. And if you actually want to be super safe, just do both. Filter the water, then boil it, and you're good to go. One of the things we always tell people is if you feel like something big is coming, fill up your bathtub. It doesn't matter if your bathtub hasn't been cleaned in a while, you know, fill up your toilet, all those things you can then purify and filter that water. And you've got a lot of water there and a great way to store it. And it's very, very simple, but I would recommend doing that and not just drinking it straight out of the source, because you just don't know what's going to happen in those emergencies.
Yeah, no, it was so much runoff, like you were saying, here, and all the concrete and everything. Just that's some nasty water that can end up in a ditch somewhere, for sure. I do tell people that I have, even when they give a boil water notice, I think that's the better water to try to treat. You know, at least it's kind of been a little bit more protected than just running off on the streets. But let's talk about the fact that, you know, it's not just hurricane season here in Houston anymore. We've had big freezes, we've had wind events, we've had just crazy things throughout the year. Preparing for emergencies, it's a year-round sort of a situation.
Yeah, it definitely is. And my recommendation always to people is I tend to base things out of my vehicle. Now, if you live in a city like New York or maybe don't have a vehicle, it's probably different for you. But, you know, my existence is if I leave my house, I drive my truck to the office, and then I might drive my truck to the gym. I drive my truck to church, to the grocery store. My truck is always with me. And the best emergency kit is the one you have in your hands, right? If you have a bunker, but you can't get to it, you don't have a bunker. So I think a lot about using my vehicle as a mini home, a mini emergency shelter, and then I build from there. So, you know, that's the first thing, is just proximity, always making sure it's near you, because you don't know when things are going to happen. Number two, Every season we push out emails here. We try to remind people it's important to switch things over every season. Check your batteries, check your food, check expiration dates. Take out your puffy coats from winter and add more water for the summer. There's just, it's not hard to predict which things are likely to happen to you. And by just augmenting your kits and being ready for those things, you're going to be in a much better situation. It takes a few hours a couple times a year, and it's really going to make a difference. So, at broad strokes here, that's what I would say to that.
That's fantastic. I didn't even really think about it, but I think I'm doing some of that on my own. Every winter, I have a big coat that I cram into the console of my truck, and it's always there, right? Because you just never really know all of a sudden when these Texas storms kind of change on you a little bit. But in the summertime, I know I'm not going to need it, so I take it out. So I like that idea of that vehicle preparation a little bit more, and then keeping it updated year round. All right, let's talk about Uncharted Supply Company. What do you have new? What do you have that you want to tell us folks here in hurricane prone areas about?
Well, we've launched a few new products in the last, year or so. We've got some really cool duffel bags. One way that's applicable to you guys, these are completely waterproof duffel bags. So they float, they work as a life jacket if you need them to. We've got an air valve on it that can let air in or out. So let's say you've got something precious, you don't want to get crushed. Well, you could blow air in and create a cushion around it, or you can use it as a life raft. Let's say it's wintertime and you want to pack a bunch of puffy coats in. You can do that, open the valve and squeeze the air out, thus saving room in your trunk or your car. All of our products are welded, they're waterproof. It's made out of really durable material. And when we started, people said, oh, you're overbuilding this, you're spending too much on it. But my perspective is, man, if you don't touch that survival kit for a year and then that one day comes and you have it and you open it and there's been some mice in it and it's spoiled and whatever, you have nothing, right? Yep. So with all of our products, we really think about that. Those duffel bags are great. We also just launched a product called the Zeus Air. So the Zeus is our family of we call them power banks, but they'll charge your devices. They have flashlights. They also jumpstart your vehicle. So our Zeus Pro will start up to an 8-liter diesel engine. You just put the clamps on the battery and start your car if you have a dead battery. And now the Zeus Air is 150 PSI air compressor too. So you got a flat tire, maybe there was some runoff and there's some stuff in the road, you puncture a tire and you got to keep moving. That's a great way to kind of keep filling up your tire and keep moving, or start a vehicle that maybe you haven't started for a while. There's a lot of fun stuff out there. This is a little not hurricaney, but we just launched a pet product. This is a dog collar with a first aid kit in it. I've got a dog that's kind of my kid. He goes everywhere with me, and he's had a couple brushes with death, which led me to kind of making sure that people are thinking about keeping their pets protected. The beauty of that is it also works for humans, right? It's a lot of the same stuff. So now your dog can carry your first aid kit for you, and that's kind of cool. So, we've got our survival kits. We have our first aid kit. We're building, I guess you call it luggage, those duffel bags, more kind of like bomb-proof gear carriers. And we just keep looking for what the problems are out there that we can solve given our perspective.
All right. And I just want to mention that several years ago, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, you guys sent me a Zeus for part of my hurricane gear test. And I can attest that I literally took it out to the parking lot and helped a coworker whose car would not start. And they couldn't even, they had jumper cables in another vehicle and it wouldn't jump from the other vehicle. But I put the Zeus on it and it was able to start up. So
they're kind of magic. This last winter, Montana had a very, very cold streak, and I have a lot of friends that live out there, and I probably got 20 or 30 text messages. I had a couple buddies that were quite literally driving around, jump starting people's cars because they were having so much fun with it. Just taking the Zeus, finding people whose cars wouldn't start, getting them on the road, and then sending me pictures. It was really a beautiful thing. It made me really proud of those guys and happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, when I show it to people or tell people, they're like, "That's not going to start a car." But I just want to say, when you see it, it will. I can tell you that it will start a car. I've seen it do it more than once, and it's not just magic of television that's doing it.
Yeah,
all right,
they're pretty cool.
Do you have stores, and are they in Texas?
Yeah, well, I mean, we spend a lot of time focused on our online business and our website. It's just our kits have so much stuff in them. It's a very hard thing to explain. at a retail location unless you know what you're looking for. So I always tell people, if you're looking for information and want to learn more, our website's a great place. We ship fast. That said, we are, nationwide in places like Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Sportsman's, Shields locations, and we have a store located on our website. So there are lots of Texas locations. I love going to Texas. I'm there quite a bit, and yeah, I think you can find it anywhere near you, and those Bass Pros, Cabela's, places like that.
All right, great. Christian, I appreciate your time today. It's been fun having a discussion with you.
My pleasure.
About just some general preparedness as well as your specific products. So we will be back with more Forecasting and Friends right after this break.
All right, well, back. I want to get you up to date on what's happening here locally, and also this development that's looking more and more likely down in the Caribbean Sea could be our next storm. So temperatures right now are greeting you for this late morning hour in the middle 70s. Beautiful, low humidity, lots of sun. We're probably going to warm into the low 80s later this afternoon. So we're right around 75 in Houston, and the breezes are blowing in from the northeast, which is a nice dry wind direction for us. These temperatures compared to this time yesterday are roughly on par. It's really not that much different, between about -2, +2 in that territory. All right, temperatures across the state of Texas right now are coolest up in the Panhandle, where Amarillo is at 58 degrees, and that does represent some cooler air that will move across the state tomorrow along a cold front, and that front will most likely bring rain to areas off to our east, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, looking for a lot of rain. And maybe a couple of sprinkles here late tomorrow. Can't rule that out. You see where it says New Orleans? Watch what happens right here, how all of that, the white cloud tops just get blown off of it. That actually is leftover moisture from Hurricane Raphael, but it's being blown apart, so it's not going to reform into anything, but it is going to help to bring them some rain. All right, to the Caribbean Sea we go, and there is a disturbance down here that's been lingering for a while. There's very warm water here and very light upper level winds. The water temperature is about 86. So it still is quite warm there, and models are really pretty aggressive with showing development. So let me start off with this model, which is our global rapid update atmospheric forecast model. We call that the GRAPH. And this one is showing a pretty powerful storm there forming just off to the north of the coast of Honduras, and that's coming up Thursday night into Friday morning. Now we can compare that with another model. This is the GFS. This is known as the American model. It's our primary, sort of medium-term computer model that we use for looking at the next maybe 3 to 10 days and beyond sometimes. And this one is also showing a similar solution, maybe a little bit farther to the east, but also showing what should be a pretty strong system down there. The next name on the list is Sarah, and so we may be looking at that system, which would be the 18th named storm of the year. In the meantime, great weather prevails across the area through the day today. Really no problems out there at all. 7-day forecast looks like this: 82 today, about 85 tomorrow. And then as we head into Thursday and Friday, you're going to enjoy that with high temperatures only about 78. Stick around to join me for Fox 26 News at noon. We'll have that for you coming up, in about 31 and a half minutes. So I hope to see you then. In the meantime, get out there and enjoy this nice weather. It's amazing. We'll see you later.